Imagine opening your wallet right now and finding only $7. Most people would look at that amount and think the same thing. It means absolutely nothing. $7 won't pay for a dinner, won't change a life, and won't make anyone rich. But there is something extremely strange happening in the financial world because some of the richest people on the planet follow a simple rule connected to small amounts like this. A rule so simple it seems ridiculous at first glance, and yet silently it is behind how many ordinary people manage to escape scarcity and build wealth over time. The curious part is that this rule is almost never taught in school, rarely appears on social media, and is almost never discussed publicly. But once you understand how it works, the way you see money changes completely, and it all starts with just $7. Now think about something even stranger. Imagine two people who earn exactly the same salary. They both work the same type of job, live in the same city, and face the same bills every month. 10 years later, one of them is still stuck in debt, living paycheck to paycheck. The other has built investments, created a solid reserve, and started building financial freedom. The most bizarre part is that often the difference between these two people doesn't start with thousands of dollars. It starts with small decisions, decisions that seem insignificant at the moment they are made. And this is where something that some behavioral economists call financial micro-habits comes in. Small choices repeated daily that shape how a person behaves with money. The problem is that most people completely ignore this level of detail. There is a curious pattern observed in people who build wealth over decades. They rarely start with large amounts. In fact, many begin just like anyone else, with an average salary and normal expenses. But they develop a specific type of mindset that transforms small amounts into something bigger. Instead of thinking, this is too little to make a difference, they think, this is the beginning of a pattern. This psychological detail changes everything. Because wealth is rarely built in a single dramatic moment. Most of the time, it emerges slowly, almost silently, through repeated behaviors. Each small financial decision starts pushing a person's life in a specific direction. And when that pattern repeats hundreds of times over the years, the results begin to multiply. Now let's talk about the so-called $7 rule. It's not exactly about the number 7 itself. The number works as a symbol of something much more important, the ability to treat small amounts as financial seeds. Most people treat small amounts as if they were invisible. If they see $7 left at the end of the day, they spend it without thinking twice. A coffee here, an app there, a small, impulsive expense that seems harmless. But there is a curious behavior among people who build wealth over time. They train their minds to do something different. Whenever a small amount appears, they treat it as the beginning of something bigger. Instead of disappearing into instant consumption, that money is directed toward a building habit. This creates what financial psychologists call the behavioral snowball effect. It's not just the money that grows, it's the person's identity that begins to change. Every small decision reinforces the idea that this person is someone who builds wealth, not someone who just consumes income. Over time, this mindset starts influencing bigger decisions. The person begins to think twice before spending impulsively, starts looking for investment opportunities, and starts valuing long-term growth. What began with small amounts starts shaping bigger choices, and those choices begin to completely change the person's financial trajectory. There is also an extremely powerful psychological factor behind this rule. The human brain learns through repetition. When someone constantly practices saving or investing small amounts, the brain starts to normalize that behavior. After some time, saving money no longer feels difficult. In fact, impulsive spending starts to feel strange. This type of mental reprogramming is what many financial behavior experts consider one of the biggest secrets to building wealth. Because before someone becomes financially rich, they usually need to become mentally disciplined with money. Now here's the truly interesting part. Most people believe that starting small is useless. They think it only makes sense to invest or save when large amounts are available. This way of thinking seems logical, but it hides a dangerous trap. Those who wait to have a lot of money to start almost always keep waiting. But those who start with small amounts build something far more valuable than the initial money. They build the habit. And habits are extremely hard to buy later. When someone finally earns more money, the habits they already have determine the destiny of that money. And maybe that's exactly why this rule works so silently. There is nothing dramatic happening at the beginning. There are no massive instant gains, no overnight transformations. What exists is something far more powerful and at the same time much more subtle, a pattern. A pattern of behavior that repeats so many times that over time creates a completely different financial reality. While most people continue treating small amounts as irrelevant, a few begin to see each small value as the beginning of a much bigger decision. So the next time you look at an amount that seems insignificant, it might be worth remembering this. Wealth rarely starts with large sums of money. Most of the time, it begins with something small, almost invisible, something that most people simply ignore. And ironically, it is exactly this small detail that can separate two completely different financial paths over a lifetime. Because in the end, the real question is not how much money someone has today, but what patterns they are repeating every single day with the money that passes through their hands.